All right, let's talk about the top 5 design system considerations for designing out a access control system. So there's obviously more than 5. We're going to talk about the top ones. And the first thing we should really consider is what kind of system do we want? Do we want something that's cloud-based, where it's all the hardware and stuff is connected via internet to a remote service? Or you could do something like the on-prem, where all of it's local to the building that you're in. So cloud, like I said, it's lightweight. The hardware and the software, it's all kind of minimalistic because it's all really run by the remote services through the internet. It's a cheaper upstart for smaller companies and for smaller facilities, which is really more what it's geared towards. It's got a monthly fee for the doors, but it's not as customizable because it's smaller. It's like a one-size-fits-all. Can't really do a whole lot with it to change it, but it's great for doing a small facility like we talked about, and it's good for small to medium-sized security risks. So
an on-prem solution is a solution where you have all your hardware, all your software locally. It's all in your facility, it's all within your organization. It's all under your control. It has a much higher equipment cost, startup cost, but your ongoing cost is much lower, obviously. We like to recommend an on-prem solution anywhere where you need lots of customization, where you need lots of integration with the third-party products, where you need to have total control over your system. Plus, it's a lot cheaper if you have lots and lots of doors, lots and lots of users. So if you are going to be using an on-prem solution, you need a controller. Controller is fundamentally an access control system is a controller, and everything else is an accessory to a controller. So all your devices are just accessories to this thing here.
Okay.
So you've got 4 functions that a controller is responsible for. So inputs, outputs, communication, and power. So you want to talk about inputs?
So inputs are like card readers. They
anything wired directly to the controller. An input is anything that sends information to the controller.
But an output's anything where the controller actually controls something like a door lock, where there's a request made and the controller sends a signal out to control something out in the field.
Inputs are also how we would integrate devices that cannot be integrated logically. A lot of devices can be integrated logically, so most on-prem solutions will be able to communicate with other devices over a network, but there are always going to be devices that can't integrate logically, so you'd have to integrate them mechanically. For example, if you have a fire alarm. So you have a fire alarm, you have an output on the fire alarm. If the fire alarm is ever tripped, it'll trigger an output on the fire alarm control panel, and we wire that output to an input on the controller so that the controller knows to go into fire mode. Then we've got outputs, and in addition to our things like our locks, we also have, this is also how you would integrate your on-prem solution to devices that can be triggered logically. For example, your elevator recall maybe, or your escalators. If you ever wanted to shut down your escalator in case of a lockdown situation, you would wire the controller into the output.
So when it comes to power, what do you think we should really consider when it comes to power?
So the access controller is powering all your devices. So all your inputs, like your card readers, are being powered by the controller. All of your outputs, like your electronic locks, are being powered by the controller. A lot of these devices, especially the locks, require a lot of power. So the next consideration is where you're actually going to be mounting these controllers. Your 2 options are edge mounting versus centralized mounting. So we were talking the other day about mounting controllers at the edge and some of the problems that we had when we decided to mount controllers at the edge
Yeah, so the biggest thing with mounting at the edge is really just making sure that you have power at the location for the controller, because it's got to be powered by an outlet. But you also got to make sure that it's kind of out of the way, because you don't want people to be able to just get to it and access it. You want to keep it on the secure side of the door, keep it in a locked enclosure, and put tampers on there, so if anybody goes and opens it, if you don't know about it, it'll at least let you know that there's something going on at it. It just and keep it more secure, especially when it's out in the field and it's not in such a central location.
On the other hand, mounting controllers at the edge is a good idea if you have a physically large building with a low density of doors. So if you had, a huge building, warehouse or something, and you had all your electronics in one part of the building, but then you had a couple of man doors all the way at the other end of the building, you just run a network drop all the way out to the edge of the building, and then you'd get an outlet and you run all your readers and all your locks right to a controller at the edge, and you'd mount it somewhere at the edge. But we do need to secure the controllers. Once you have the controllers, you need to secure them, and that's why a lot of people choose centrally locating their controllers, because it's easier to secure the systems that way. For example, if you had a server room, and we love installing our controllers in server rooms because server rooms are already, inherently secure most of the time if they're properly designed. Obviously, they're usually locked. They're usually controlled. They usually have grounding options like a bus bar or a grounding bar, so you can actually ground these controllers. So you don't have to. So you have to worry a lot less about power surges and lightning strikes. There are usually security cameras in a data room, in a data center, or in a server room, because you want to make sure you not just control access to the controller, but that you actually are surveilling the controller at all times.
Well, it also makes maintenance a lot easier when it's all in one spot instead of putting it on the edge where you have to go back to it in different locations every time. Having it one spot is a lot nicer to come back to.
These things do require regular maintenance, so you do need to make sure that you have regular access to it. Plus, some of these controllers can actually get programmed right from the controller. So if you don't control access to the controller, you could be in trouble. Now, how do you choose a controller?
Well, that really depends on what you need. Smaller location, you might put a controller out on the edge. You might only have 2 doors. So you have a couple different options. You can go from anywhere from 2-door controller, 4-door controller, and 8-door controller. It really just, it's customizable to the person and the location that you need. So
a lot of people don't realize that most controllers are usually limited to 2, 4, 8 controllers. Most controllers just limited to 4 doors. But you can always keep stacking controllers, and of course you need to make sure you have a network drop. And that's another reason why we like to put these controllers in the data rooms and the server rooms. There's usually network access there, obviously. Plus, you do have to think about the format of the reader. You have to think about the format of the credential, and different reader formats are compatible with different controllers, and most controllers are not compatible with everything out there. So if you have a specific credential you want to use for some reason, you want to make sure your controller is compatible. Now, a lot of controllers, this one here, for example, mounts to a DIN rail. So you can mount it to a rack. You can get a rack mount adapter and have one controller rack mount, 2 controller rack mount. You can usually get an enclosure if you're going to be putting it at the edge, so you can put it inside a locked and tampered enclosure mounted to a wall. So lots of different mounting options, but you want to make sure you know how you're mounting before you choose a mounting location.
Absolutely.
Now, if you have any questions, you always give us a call. You can always email us at support@midchez.com. I love answering questions. Happy to discuss the system design further.
Well, thank you, Ari. Appreciate it.